The toughest sentence handed out for the death of Elijah McClain is no more. Breaking news this afternoon, a judge decided 5 years was too long for paramedic Peter Chikuniak. It's a development, a big one, in a case that's garnered international attention. The prosecutors who tried the case say they are disappointed in the decision to convert this to 4 years of probation. The mother of Elijah McClain says she's not surprised.
9 News investigative reporter Chris Vanderveen has been covering this case for years. Turns out it's kind of a procedural question that the court was answering today.
It is, and it's based upon the judge's interpretation of state law, and this is what it comes all down to. Courts can modify certain sentences after a defendant has served at least 119 days. Chikuniak has now spent more than that in prison, and thus his attorney made the request last month. In a court filing, prosecutors called this procedural move the escape hatch, noting that it's exceptionally rare, only used 22 times since 1977 in this judicial district. Chikuniak pled with the judge back when he was sentenced in early March, telling the packed courtroom he wished he could go back and make changes that would have saved Elijah McClain's life. The 5-year sentence was by far the toughest sentence for any of the 2 paramedics and 1 officer found guilty for their roles in the 2019 death. McClain stopped breathing shortly after paramedics injected him with ketamine. His mother told 9 News today she expected the leniency, adding, quote, "I'm not surprised at all. None of those involved have escaped divine judgments against them. I'm sure those sentences won't be televised." So now 5 years in prison is converted to 4 years of probation. Fellow paramedic Jeremy Cooper received 14 months of work release. Aurora police officer Randy Rodema received 14 months in jail. In this case, prosecutors had successfully argued to both the jury and judge that Chikuniak's decision to give McClain too much ketamine for his weight was critical in justifying this tougher sentence. The Colorado Attorney General prosecuted this case this afternoon. A spokesperson for the office said that the office was disappointed in the decision, but still respects it.
It's hard to hear that it's procedural, certainly for a lot of folks in Aurora who have been following this case for the family of Elijah McClain, who, I mean, they're deflated. This is a bit of a gut punch.
This is tough because they weren't satisfied with these decisions regardless.
That's right.
And now this decision of 5 years in prison to be taken away just to probation. Yes, absolutely a lot of disappointment tonight.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chris, thank you.
You bet.
Prosecutors may rest their case today in the trial against the Boulder Super shooter. The prosecution's job is to prove to the jury that he was sane during the time of the crime, meaning he knew the difference between right and wrong. Our Kelly Rinke was in the courtroom today, and Kelly, the forensic psychologist who performed the mental health evaluations, testified this afternoon.
Yeah, hey Alex, he had interviewed the defendant multiple times while he was at the state mental health hospital, and after those evaluations, he concluded that at the time of the shooting, the defendant was legally sane. We also learned through testimony today that the shooter had selected that Supers location days before the shooting. Dr. Thomas Gray, who also testified in the Aurora Theater shooting trial, agrees the Super shooter has schizophrenia, but he said his primary symptoms haven't been hallucinations. Dr. Gray described him as someone who spoke very little and wasn't interested in socializing. Most of his testimony this afternoon was about voices the shooter said he's heard for years. Dr. Gray said after multiple attempts to learn more about those voices, the shooter never said the voices gave him commands or instructions, just yelled and screamed. Dr. Gray also testified the voices never told him to commit a mass shooting.
As I've asked before, being paranoid doesn't make somebody insane. Correct. Even having delusions or hallucinations doesn't make somebody insane. Correct.
Prosecutors played portions of his forensic interviews, and in those conversations, the shooter said that he felt a, quote, adrenaline rush, and then his anxiety went away after the shooting. Dr. Gray testified that the shooter possibly and inferred to know that the shooting was illegal and that jail was a possibility. Live in Boulder, I'm Kelly Rinke, 9 News.
Kelly, thank you for the update.
Let's take a live look outside now. A little chill in the air today. Chill seems like a strong word. We barely got to 80 degrees. I wouldn't call it chilly, but a little cold front rolling through last night helped us get there. Kathy Sabin joining us this afternoon. Kathy, we were teasing about maybe needing a coat for the Broncos game. Surely not.
Surely not, no.
Just kidding.
No, I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch to say that 80 is chilly, but after yesterday when we were so worried about the critical fire weather, it was 93 degrees, to have temperatures hold in the 70s for much of the day was a nice change. I think, a welcome change for so many of us on a Friday, right? After a long week. Other piece of good news, the smoke and haze from the wildfires in Southern California. Yes, it's here, but not as dense as we thought, especially with that weak front coming through this morning and ushering in that cooler air mass. We're currently 82 degrees in Denver. That's about average for this time of year. The humidity values, we'd love to see those higher, but at least the wind is lower, so there's not a red flag warning out. All eyes on the weekend, and it is a big football weekend, whether you got high school, you got the Rocky Mountain Showdown, or the Broncos in town. We'll be talking about that coming up. Winds out of the east have ushered in a cooler air mass. Again, it's pretty dry out there, so always we're mindful of the fire danger, but no warnings or advisories today. Low 80s now. Great evening for a walk to the park, dinner on the patio, whatever you might have going on. I'll detail that weekend forecast. Are you headed to the high country? The leaves are starting to change. We'll talk all about it with the football forecast as well coming up.
A big change for shelters in Denver this winter. They will stay open 24/7 when the overnight temperature falls under 25 degrees or there's 2 inches of snowfall. Now, before, shelters would open under 20 degrees and they would only be open at night. Another change this year, the city will consolidate the shelters for people migrating to Denver because they haven't been as full. Evan Krugel will have more on the changes tonight at 6 next with Kyle Clark.
A man from Massachusetts is now facing at least 9 charges after police say he drove a truck onto Folsom Field last night. Boulder police say they got a whole bunch of calls about hit and run crashes in Boulder, all of them involving the same pickup truck near Foothills Parkway and Arapahoe Avenue in Boulder. A witness said one man was involved in at least 2 crashes, hitting trees and a sign before he drove off. And then CU campus police say the driver rammed a gate and ultimately got on the field. After crashing around the 40-yard line, he got out and surrendered to officers. Our team was out there today as field crews were making repairs. 9 News Investigates got a hold of some court documents that say that man caused at least $100,000 worth of damage to the field. Coming up at 5, we're going to hear from Boulder police about the investigation. As crews are working to fix the turf at Folsom, Buffs are headed north tomorrow for the Rocky Mountain Showdown.
A big rivalry night playing out at CSU's Canvas Stadium in Fort Collins. This rivalry dates back 132 years. The Buffs won last year's meeting in double overtime. Crazy game. In fact, CU has won the last 6 Rocky Mountain Showdowns. Both teams are looking to improve their record. Both teams sit at 1-1. After Saturday's game, we won't see the CU-CSU matchup for another 4 years. So important game, all the action starts tomorrow at 5:30.
Starting this weekend, if you are flying out of DIA, you got a little longer now, you can use your TSA PreCheck. The airport announced today PreCheck hours will be extending. At the South Security PreCheck, they're going to stay open 2 hours later now until 9:45 at night. If you're not familiar with PreCheck, you've probably seen the lines. It's one of those pre-screening options you can sign up for in advance, designated to get you through security quicker, and you don't have to take off your shoes or your liquids from your carry-on bag.
A new business in Denver is making Denver history. It is the first marijuana spa in the city. It's also the first place you can both buy and consume weed. It's called Pure Elevations. They infuse THC oil into their services like hair care, pedicures, massages, and more. Inside the building, you can buy marijuana, you can take edibles, and use topicals. Right outside on the consumption lounge, you can smoke weed. This business has been there years in the making, 3 years, and the owner first experimented with weed after a traumatic experience 14 years ago. She broke her neck in a bad car accident while she was pregnant. She ended up losing the baby. She used marijuana to rebound. Now she wants other people to change their perception.
The goal was not only to introduce marijuana as a wellness tool, but also change the cannabis industry to get rid of that stigma and engage other people in not such a negative manner, with the stigma that surrounds marijuana.
The grand opening is Tuesday. There's somewhat similar concepts around Denver, Tetra and the coffee joint. Both there, you can bring your own weed, but those businesses you can't consume, you cannot buy it there. At Pure Elevations, you can buy and use it all in the same place. The city says they hope other businesses consider creative ideas like this too.